Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Geo, or Jeff. To my left, we have the Mistress of Dorkness, SusieQ.
Hello, my lovelies, and good evening.
And tonight, we have a very special guest with us. We have the president and owner of SmiteWorks USA, Mr. Doug Davison. Hello, sir.
Woo-hoo,
Hello,
hey, Doug.
everyone.
Excellent. Well, welcome very much to my channel, and welcome to our community. Before we get started, I have one announcement. Actually, I have two announcements to make this evening. The first is Sunday, coming this Sunday at noon Eastern Time, that's UTC -5, we have episode 1 of the long-awaited Iron Maiden's science fantasy space opera game with our lovely ladies, the Iron Maidens. All 6 of the players are all female. Myself is the only male, and I'm running the game. I'm just the air molecule that floats around outside their spaceship. And we are going to have some magic and mayhem in space. And the second announcement is, in honor of the Iron Maidens, we have a special giveaway tonight. Our special giveaway, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, is a Harley Quinn minifig by QFig. If you wish to win this, by all means, please go ahead and purchase your tickets with your experience points in our chat channel. There is absolutely no purchase necessary as far as any sort of cash. You can just get it with your own experience points, which, by the way, if you become a follower, you immediately get 50 experience points, and each ticket is worth 50, so go for it. Buy one. Alrighty, now that all that junkola is out of the way, let's talk about what we're here. Fantasy Grounds.
Oh boy, Fantasy Grounds. I hope you're ready for this, Doug, because our viewers have blown up my chat with questions.
Sweet.
Okay, we're going to start with our first one. And this comes from Schmo. With the latest update, players can now add classes, races, and feats. Are there any plans to allow them to add the reference manuals?
That's a good question, and it's kind of a mixed answer. Kind of a yes, like a qualified yes. So there's now an option that we have right now in our dev channel to output to the reference manual again, so you can create content and then create your own reference manual modules. Now, the big difference and the limitation that we still have right now that we've not quite cracked is, those of you who have noticed that on some of the newer modules, and like the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Primeval Tool, some of the other modules like that, we've gone and had it embedded images mixed in with the text and the reference manuals. And so how we're doing that is by building it in XML outside of Fantasy Grounds. So we have not come up with a good, clean way of building that directly within Fantasy Grounds yet. So that's still kind of a nut for us to crack. So it's a qualified yes.
Okay, so it's something that is being worked on for future upgrades, basically.
Yes.
Okay, neato.
Okay, I've got a question that I know that I have been receiving for 2 months from many of the players and game masters, is when is Fantasy Grounds going to get dynamic lighting?
Okay, so the dynamic lighting is something that back in October of 2015, we acquired a company called Tabletop Connect, and the lead developer from that virtual tabletop had joined us as a senior developer, and his sole responsibility from the moment that he joined has been working on our Unity port of Fantasy Grounds. So we're going to move everything over to Unity, which is a much more robust environment than what we had in the past. And so a lot of stuff that he had already working and functioning very, very well within Tabletop Connect were things like dynamic lighting and three-dimensional representations with actual like real torches and stuff like that, to where it would have point of light that you could then move the points of lights around. You could create multiple light sources. All that sort of stuff is already in a lot of the libraries that he's already developed. And so we're working towards merging the best of his platform with the best of Fantasy Grounds so that we can move forward in a way that's not just going to be trying to copy or catch up with our competitors, but to really set the bar at a whole new level. And so because of that, we had a couple decisions, which were, should we go ahead and implement a line of sight, dynamic line of sight in Fog of War in the current interface, and then turn around and rip all that back out and then re-implement it in a different fashion once the Unity version hits. And just with our small team, it didn't seem like that was the best application of our resources internally. So what we've chosen to do at this point is to really just focus on getting everything moved over to Unity, and then we'll implement it there. And then we'll only implement things in the current version that will come directly over without having to rewrite them.
Okay, that's good. And since there's going to be a new Unity version in the works, would people who have licenses with the current version need to repurchase a new license?
There will be some form of an upgrade that we're probably going to do, and we're going to try to do it in such a way to where it doesn't really, like, we don't want people to say, to question whether they should buy the current version now and then be afraid they'll have to turn around and pay a lot more money to get the new Unity version. So we have a couple things that I think are going to help make that much more streamlined for everybody. So one of those is that all of the content, all of the add-ons, from day one, as soon as we started, the work on the Unity port, which was, I guess it's been about 2.5 years, to be honest, that we've been working on this thing, but a lot more recently. But all of those will be compatible. And I don't know if it's going to be a true two-way backward compatibility or compatibility, between the two versions, but definitely a way to import those in and have them automatically convert up to the Unity version if you own those. And so, so you won't have to rebuy any of your content at all. Now, the core engine itself, we do anticipate having some form of an upgrade or an upgrade fee to where you can say, all right, if you've had your license for a certain amount of time, we'll have a series of kind of guidelines on what we recommend the upgrade fee to be. But ultimately, we want to let it go back to you as kind of like a pay what you want style upgrade fee. That's what we're hoping to do, at least, so that if you just bought it, say you just bought it within the last 2 or 3 months or something like that, then you might choose the lowest tier upgrade fee, which we expect is probably going to be about $5 for the for the standard version, and probably around maybe $15 for the ultimate version. And then from there, we'll suggest that, okay, well, if you've had it for longer than a year, between 1 and 2 years, then maybe our recommended upgrade fee would be the $30 level, and then from there it might be $60 for the next level, or $45. We haven't come out with all the different tiers yet, what we suggest, but those are going to be basically what we suggest based off of how long you've already owned your licenses. And ultimately, it's going to fall to you to decide which category you fit in to best. And because some people that have been using it like on a weekly basis for the last few years may feel like, hey, I've gotten a lot of value out of it. Whereas we might have other people that bought it and used it a little bit in the beginning, and then maybe they hadn't used it as much. And so for them, the time factor may not really apply to them as much. So it's just going to be kind of an honor system that we want to do. And hopefully we'll get enough people to upgrade that'll help, pay us for the significant amount of time and effort that we've, invested in it. And hopefully that significant amount of time and effort will show through in the quality of the product. And everyone will feel like they're getting something really good for their money and for their support.
Take my money now.
That's funny. I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, how can I work this so I can just pay for all the upgrades and just do it?
Yeah. I do have one more follow-up for that. And is there a timeline for the possibility of the Unity rollout?
So we were thinking and hoping that we would be a lot farther along than what we were. So we were originally slating to have maybe an alpha build ready to go around Gen Con of last year, so around August of last year. And so clearly we missed that kind of deadline. We meet about it weekly and we go over, kind of what we've managed to get accomplished. And just kind of for everybody on the streams, understanding of kind of how we're divided out. So you'll see that we have a lot of products that are constantly coming out in the store and that sort of thing. And I've seen a few comments saying, hey, you guys are not coming out with the Unity version because you're coming out with all these other things. It's delaying you. And that's not really the case. So we have Carl Pender is our kind of senior developer on the Unity side. He's the guy from Tabletop Connect. Very, very experienced and knowledgeable, the most experienced and knowledgeable person on our team with regard to Unity. And so he is 100% focused on Unity, has been since he joined the company in October 2015. And so in addition to him, we also have John Gregory, who is another one of the owners. He and I are the two owners of the company. He pretty much works 100%, just about 100% on like the back end system for Fantasy Grounds, the core software itself for the current version. Most of the rule set stuff kind of falls into his wheelhouse as well, and the Unity. So he's kind of divided across those three things. But two of those things are directly related to the Unity version in the future, because everything that he's putting into rule sets today is going to be compatible with the Unity version. And so essentially 2/3 of his time is directed towards Unity development as well. And then in addition to that, we have Zeph Ponis, who has done a lot of work for us in the past on different rule sets, and he's been a commissioned developer helping us produce a lot of our Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition content and some of our graphics and skins and things like that. And so he has joined us, and in an official capacity, he's a part-time worker. He's out of the United Kingdom though. And so he is now working much more so on the Unity stuff, on the networking, some of the dice mechanics and graphics and that sort of stuff too. So I don't know. So I mean, it's a long way of kind of getting around to it, but and then on top of that, we've got other developers pushing out new content, and those are oftentimes commission developers. But we're hoping that this year's Gen Con will be will be kind of the right timing then for us, that where we can have the first release. Then it may not be fully ready yet, but we hope that that'll give us enough time to get all of the rest of the networking components in and the base software going. Right now, it's functioning. A lot of the back-end plumbing is in place at this point, but we still have some pretty big hurdles to still overcome yet. So it's a big project.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a very big project. And as we say around my server, soon, quotes, trademark. That's what we usually call it.
Pretty much. Okay. For small companies like ourselves, marketing is it's really crucial to our continued success and growth. What one of our viewers wants to know is more about the overall marketing plan for combating Roll20's Twitch presence and acceptance as the platform to go to, and what streamers and Fantasy Grounds can do together to combat this.
I mean, that's a good, challenging question, and I don't know that I'd have the answer for it directly, other than we consistently and continually try new things all the time, and we're always looking at new ways that we can reach people, how we can get in touch with people, and have them try out Fantasy Grounds, have a good experience with it, and then the more people that we get to actually run a campaign or play in a campaign on it, the more converts that we actually have. So overall, I'm not too terribly worried about like Roll20 and how even if they are the very first thing that people go and look at, I don't think that necessarily hurts us, because they're bringing people into the online gaming space, and then a lot of those people will migrate over into our area. I mean, I think if you look at what they're offering, they have a very compelling sort of introduction, because it's really easy to get started with Roll20. I mean, that's one of the things that they do very, very well, is that they have it's free first off, and so they have this idea that you can go and you can play for free on Roll20. You can even, host your games for free on Roll20. And then they have the advanced features that they then charge for to where they make, extra funds and money and that sort of stuff. And so I think once people start getting to that phase, they come in with the free product. And then once they get to the, paying a subscription service and then buying the add-ons and that sort of thing, then I think at that point in time when they're actually putting money down, a lot of those people will stay with Roll20 if that's how they came in. But I think a lot of other people also start to go around and look and say, okay, well, by the time if I'm going to have to pay $50 for a monster manual on Roll20 and $50 for a monster manual through Fantasy Grounds, which one is going to give me the best bang for the buck, at that point? And same thing with all of the adventure paths and so forth. So, I think that we present a pretty good competitive argument at that point. And so we get a lot of people to come over. And really, Fantasy Grounds is growing and doing quite well. I know Roll20 is growing as well, too. So, I don't think it's necessarily a zero-sum game where we have to cut into, their presence on Twitch or this or that or whatever. So, I mean, with that said, we still try to get our name out there as much as possible. So we do advertising in a couple different places. We've got a social media manager that we hired back in January of last year, and we've seen a lot of growth thanks to his kind of constant efforts on social media. And our Twitch channel, we have a Twitch channel as well, and we've been streaming games on Sundays, and that's starting to gain a little bit of momentum, a little slow starting out, but it's starting to pick up a bit. And we just got a Twitch channel set up to where you can choose Fantasy Grounds when you go to choose which game you're streaming. So, we're continually moving, I guess, in that direction. And hopefully we'll get it out there in front of people. Plus, we're also on Steam, and I think Steam has got a very big kind of draw for people. I mean, that's more than 97 or 98% of all PC gaming is done on Steam worldwide. It's like, I don't know how it's not considered a monopoly, but we love them. And so they definitely help give us a big boost.
Yeah, I just recently had an email back and forth with Twitch itself, because I stream almost all my stuff on the D&D category in Twitch, and I saw your email saying that, hey, look, guys, we have our own category on Twitch now. And I was like, well, I would really love to be able to stream both places at the same time. So right now I'm speaking to Twitch about dual streaming to both categories, so we can try to get that crossover going, because people just don't know that Fantasy Grounds exists as a program itself. I mean, we have quite a few streamers like myself, FSH Schmo, Rob2E. We've got Dave, who does your tabletop for Fantasy Grounds. We've got Praetor's Rejects, who are here in the channel with us right now. We've got a whole bunch of smaller streamers who all use Fantasy Grounds, and I think the first question that any human being who ever pops into our channel for the first time to watch D&D game is, what program are you guys using? This is gorgeous. And all of us, get this big smile on our face, and we say, it's Fantasy Grounds. Do you want to try it for free? Go download the demo. Here's the link.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I've seen a lot of that too. So you guys are absolutely the best possible advocates that we can have. I mean, because you can pay for placement and product, banners and that sort of stuff, but nothing really beats just really the word of mouth and showing and demonstrating it to people. Similarly, we've had people go to conventions and bring a TV that they lay flat on the table and then they project out to that. And one of the benefits of something like Fantasy Grounds is you don't even have to have the active internet connection. You can really run a really good offline game in a convention in the middle of a big convention hall without having to worry about, the internet, which we all know how those can be at convention halls.
Oh, definitely. Matter of fact, I actually got my very first copy of Fantasy Grounds. Oh, good Lord. It was almost 10 years ago.
Something like that. It was a while ago.
It was a long time ago.
It could have been 10 years ago. It was 2004 is when it first came out. And I actually, I didn't buy it as an end user until I want to say it was maybe even 2008. And then I didn't have it for very long before I, negotiated to buy the company because I was so impressed with the groundwork that they had laid, with it.
Yeah, I had gotten mine. Let's see, I'd gotten mine as a freebie, like a beta test key, way back when it first came out. It was at a Gen Con, and they were walking around and they were giving it to game developers, designers, publishers, just to test it out and see if it was a platform that they would like to use. And I remember using it way back when. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's come a long way, and it's and definitely I always try to throw back out to the original creators of Fantasy Grounds, the original SmiteWorks crew, the 3 guys out of Finland, how they did just such a fantastic job of really building something that to build any kind of software that's still viable 10 plus years down the road. I mean, that's an impressive feat, especially if you come from software development and you know how hard that is to achieve. And yeah, we're seeing some signs of its aging that makes it harder for us. We've pretty much bent it about as far as it can go without breaking it. But the fact that it's lasted as long as it has before we really are kind of, forced to move up to Unity is just a testament to, their vision and their architectural design from a software standpoint.
Okay, we have another question. When are we going to see an update that will have us save our settings so that we don't have to organize and set up Combat Tracker and the other windows every single time we log into Fantasy Grounds?
Yeah, I think especially with more and more people doing the streaming and how you have to have your layout set up so that you can stream, I'm seeing that question more and more. And so I don't unfortunately have an ETA for you because that's going to fall back into John's kind of area of expertise there, where we try not to both go in and do code changes in the same area just because it makes it a little bit more complicated. But it's coming up more and more, and I guess is all I'll say is that that tends to make things bubble up to the top. And I don't think it would ultimately be that difficult of a thing to add in. We already save a few of your kind of preferences like that. So I keep bringing it up to him, and we meet weekly and discuss what new things we want to try to get in the next patch. And so it's just a matter of which things do we prioritize and what do we prioritize it over top of. And so I have a few things that I need to have him definitely crank out, but I'll keep kind of bringing this up and see if we can get it into maybe one of the small updates coming up here.
Okay, another one of our viewers wants to know if Fantasy Grounds is something that can be put into an app so that you could play on a wireless device such as a tablet.
Not easily, not really. I mean, I think some people are using the full-blown Windows tablets that can run Windows applications and software. And I've got 2 Surface devices that I use that are they can operate as a slate, and so it does work in that capacity. But as far as running on iOS and Android tablets, I think it really needs a redesign, to be honest, of the user interface to make it really fit that medium a little bit better. Because one of the things that you'll notice when people first come to Fantasy Grounds is there's a lot of windows that open up, and just like the previous question about when are we going to save your layout, where you've shrunk your chat window down, you put your combat tracker here and there and all that sort of stuff. The way a lot of people combat that, the way I combat that myself, is I actually have 2 monitors. I don't ever run without 2 monitors, but I'm kind of that way with all my software. Like, I can't imagine ever using 1 monitor for the last probably 8 or 9 years at least. But so I mean, I think you try to squeeze that down onto a 8-inch device, it's going to be just amplified even more unless we design it specifically for that. And so, yes, we do want to design that. Our first thing is let's get over onto Unity first, and then we'll start looking at building some maybe ancillary helper applications that will work alongside it, but won't necessarily try to recreate everything that's Fantasy Grounds. So, like, initially it would probably be, maybe you can use your use your tablet around the table to be connected to just the player view or the player instance, and that'll allow you to maybe see like shared images and maps and your character sheet and combat tracker, that sort of stuff. But again, we don't ever envision where you're going to have all of those things open on the small tablet screen at once. So it's going to have to be a different layout where you're swiping left and right to show the different screens and interfaces, or the little slide out dashboards or something like that.
Okay. Are there any plans for incorporating our own soundboards into Fantasy Grounds for our games?
Yes, as well, but again, not till Unity, and probably not at launch with Unity. There's a couple different things that we're looking at with regard to sound that would be big wins for us if we can get it in there, but we just haven't got to that phase yet to where we're trying to add in those new features yet.
Okay, and what about the possibility of creating an app to help with the player search and the game search that would make it a little bit cleaner than the forums and easier to follow?
Yeah, so a lobby is one of the things that we have is on our networking side that we're working on, and so we want to have built-in lobby functionality to help you locate a game and then connect to it directly within the application. But that's, again, Unity. Sorry, I keep saying Unity for everything. No,
that's okay. That's okay. It's all good. From what I'm hearing about the Unity stuff, I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Let me guess. Are we planning? Let's see, like face cams and stuff in Unity as well?
So we've done some preliminary work with something called WebRTC, which basically allows you to do some video streaming and broadcasting back and forth. This is something I would really love to get in on one of our early releases on the Unity platform. We're kind of had some internal debate about whether we should launch first and then add that in, or if that should be something that's available at launch or whatever. But so all we've really done right now is we've just prototyped something out. We've demonstrated that, yeah, it works, but it was a separate app. It wasn't integrated in with the rest of our Fantasy Grounds development. So I'm optimistic that we can get it in there, relatively early, but it may not be a launch-ready feature in the Unity side.
Okay, that's not a problem. Now, since we're talking about streaming a little bit, I actually have a number of streamers who have asked, what will it take to have Fantasy Grounds sponsor a streamer?
That's a good question. Right now, I don't have any hard and fast guidelines for it whatsoever. But you can always just email us at support@fantasygrounds.com and let us know what kind of a stream you're planning on running, what kind of frequency you've had. It'll help probably if you've already done some legwork and some groundwork on it, so that I see that, okay, you've already got a channel set up, the channel looks nice. If you've got a certain number of followers, obviously that makes it a lot easier, because that kind of trumps all in a lot of ways. And then there's different levels that we could help sponsor. So the earliest level sponsor that we could probably do as far as trying to help out is we can try to help you grow your audience. And so when we see people streaming games to Fantasy Grounds, we try to go in and host. And so you could tweet to us, or you could email us when you're about ready to go online, that sort of stuff. We'd be happy to help host if we're not already hosting somebody else's stream, to help you grow your membership and your viewership. And then beyond that, if you already have a larger number of followers, then obviously we'd be willing to do even more, and probably work out deals with publishers to help get you complimentary add-ons and DLC and stuff like that. We could potentially do as well.
Awesome, very good. I know that there's quite a few streamers who are sitting in my chat room who have asked me that 1,000 times to ask you, so that's a good one.
Definitely. Okay.
I know that my email will be flying to very shortly.
Very cool.
Yep. And in regards to the Table Connect application that you have announced, is this going to be a standalone independent application, or is it Fantasy Ground Future?
Okay, so just to clarify, so the Tabletop Connect thing that we bought back in 2015, that product is ceasing to be developed going forward, but is instead being incorporated into the Fantasy Grounds version. So I'm not sure if that's what they were talking about, if they were talking about the tablet stuff that I talked about.
Yeah, they were talking about the original program.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that no longer is in development as of, what was it, 2015, right? When you purchased it.
Yeah, but definitely, I do encourage you to go, hop over to YouTube and take do a quick Google search for Tabletop Connect, and you can see some of the videos, and you can see why we acquired it. And I mean, Carl has got, just kind of a great vision as well. And so, that's one of the things that drew me to that in the first place, is that how he solved some of the kind of common problems with virtual tabletops. Just showed that he's the type of person that we wanted to be affiliated with, and we wanted on our team. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait until we have all of that out there for everyone to experience. And once we can get Carl to where he's working on nothing but that kind of stuff, instead of, frankly, some of the boring stuff that he's had to do so far, which is plumbing. Internally, what we call software developers call plumbing is the stuff it's not the shiny stuff. It's not the stuff that is got the high excitement level, but it's absolutely critical to get done right. And so he's nearing completion of all that stuff before he can hop back over and do all that really cool shiny stuff again.
Sweet. Okay. Now we all know that D&D is Fantasy Grounds bread and butter. There are multiple modules and so on and so forth on Fantasy Grounds for Dungeons and Dragons, but are there any new role-playing systems that are going to be coming to Fantasy Grounds in the future?
We're always looking to add, new systems. I know we've got a number of different rule sets that are in development, have been in development for a while, and so we're really just hoping to get those nailed down, and then rolled out. And we've got different developers working on those too. So that's one of the beauties is that we have 37. I think we're up to maybe 40 or so now. Community developers who do work for us on a commission basis for the products that we put out under their name. So some of those, the other rule sets that are in progress, we have What's Old is New from Ian Publishing. I don't know if there's a way to say it as an abbreviation, but WOIN. So that one is one that I'm personally looking forward to seeing done, because it's got a really kind of cool, it's got multiple genre appeal. So it's got fantasy and modern and sci-fi kind of all within the same set of rules. And then just really, really kind of cool, clever design from an RPG standpoint. So that's been in development for a while now. And we've had to kind of shop around to different developers internally, but it's getting closer and closer to completion. Similarly, we have Travelers doing some good work. I've got some other developers who are working on a host of other different rule sets, and hopefully those will be out as well. Plus, the Pathfinder stuff just got an official license as of, I guess December is when it was officially announced. And so we've been, working on getting lots of great content for Pathfinder all ready to go, and that's nearly ready for our first batch of stuff to get sent over for final approval from Paizo, and then we'll be releasing those as well.
Excellent. And who was the What is Old is New developer again?
So that developer is Colin Richardson, and so I think he's on the forum as Mad Beardman.
Okay. All right.
He's done a lot of other modules for us as well. He's done a couple of Call of Cthulhu modules for 6th edition and 7th edition, and he's also done some 5th edition modules from, like, I think Legendary Press and 01 Games.
Oh, very cool. I like 01 Games. They had back in the day, they were the guys to go to for your blueprints for your dungeons and stuff.
Oh yeah, and they've actually been one of the publishers that's been with us for quite a while. And so Mario has been a great supporter of Fantasy Grounds, when we were really, really small too. One of the first people that I got to deal with once I, acquired the company in 2009.
Awesome.
Okay. Another one of our viewers wants to know, are there any plans to bring Shadow of the Demon Lord to Fantasy Grounds?
So the big challenge with Shadow of the Demon Lord right now is just trying to find another developer who's not already engaged on another project. So we actually have an agreement with Robert Schwalb to produce a Shadow of the Demon Lord rule set and setting and books and everything too. And we've got a lot of people who are really interested in it. So that's 2 out of the 3 things we need. So we just need the third one. And so I kept hoping that I'd be able to free John up enough to crank out a real quick rule set, because it's not that different from some of the other stuff that we have. But I just haven't been able to find the time to pull them off of other projects for that yet. So if you're a developer, community developer, and you're familiar with Lua code and XML and decent with the graphics, and you're interested in doing that sort of stuff, then definitely hit me up, and we'd be happy to try to work with you on that, because we do have an agreement in place. We're ready to go with it. We just have to be able to deliver the product on our end.
Oh, that's very cool. Very, very cool. I wish I knew a little bit more about the coding side of it. I've already tried doing a little bit of my own coding, and sometimes my head gets a little bit spun.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not a trivial thing to do. I mean, I know a lot of people could throw together, and people have played like Shadow of the Demon Lord using like the More Core rule set and Core RPG rule set and that sort of stuff. And so you can still play it that way, but for an official product, yeah, we want it all, pre-configured for you out of the box, so that the end user doesn't have to do with that. But I will say that at Gen Con later this year, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to do a workshop. It's going to be limited to about 25 people, I think, but it's going to be a coding and advanced customization and development workshop for an hour at Gen Con, where we're going to talk about what sort of tools do you need, walk you through the basics of how to build your own extension, or how to extend an existing rule set system, that sort of stuff. I mean, it's going to be limited to what we can cover in 1 hour. But it is going to be presented in a workshop sort of fashion. So if you're interested at all in that, then definitely try to catch up with that one.
Oh, very good. Now, as a developer, I make like dungeon tiles and such. Is there any mods or anything to use so I could actually make random dungeons utilizing dungeon tiles right in Fantasy Grounds?
So there are some extensions. I haven't followed, to be honest, I haven't followed on them, because there were a few kind of issues with kind of how they were developed. But there's some third-party extensions for image layers. I think it's called the Advanced Image Editing extension, maybe.
Yeah.
Which allow you to use some tiles and to have layers and stuff as well. But again, I hate to go back to the Unity thing again. Tiles are one of the things we absolutely want to do built in for the Unity version, and so that's something that is right. Like Carl already has all that sort of stuff in place from Tabletop Connect that he can bring over very, very easily. And so we have a handful of products from different publishers, including like O1 Games as well. They have some really good tile products, and I know a lot of other artists and small indie artists have really nice tile type systems. So we're going to support tile 2D mapping and also even 3D tile mapping down the road within the Unity, just right out of the gate. So that's going to be something that we want to support fully.
I'm actually applauding over here. My hands are like going 1,000 miles a minute.
Okay. Another one of our viewers wants to know, since so many people are streaming Fantasy Grounds right now, does Fantasy Grounds have any plans in the works to make it easier for us to have like integrated audio and video for the GMs and players to stream with? I think so. I think we might have already answered that one, but I'm not sure, because there's so many questions and they're all worded differently.
Yeah. Nothing in the short term. And I think, again, it's going to go back into, once we get into Unity, we're going to look at adding those kind of features embedded in the application. But just to reiterate what I said earlier, it's not necessarily something that's locked down 100% that it's going to be available at launch of the Unity version. It might be a round 2 or version 1.2 of the product.
Oh, very good. And speaking of small-time publishers and indie developers, how difficult is it to have something that would be quote-unquote official Fantasy Grounds content to sell on the Fantasy Grounds store for people like that? What is the process?
So right now, James Holloway is our production coordinator, and so you can reach him at jholloway@smiteworks.com. And so a lot of those, you could also just email us at support@fantasygrounds.com. That's the email that's linked, when you first launch the app, and I'll get it over to him, and we'll work with you on that. So we have a lot of indie artists and publishers, and small and large that we work with, and so there's a couple kind of guidelines that I would throw out there to people. Things like new token packs and artwork, and like map packs and stuff like that. Those things go pretty easily into our store system, and then James can work out, okay, these are the sizes we need, this is the format that we need the files and all that sort of stuff. He can work with you on those, and then and then I handle all the contracting and get you set up and tell you, like, all right, this is the percentage that you get as a publisher, all that sort of stuff. If we have to convert it, or if we have to get it over to someone to convert, then it just adds an extra layer that we need to make sure that we have enough community developers to help us bring these things to market, because we can't really take all of those on ourselves as much as we would love to. I mean, I'd love to be able to support every one of the game systems that's coming out there. But if it's a like adventure module or something like that for an existing game, like say 5th edition or Pathfinder compatible game, that sort of thing, or any of the other games that are out there that are open gaming license type stuff, we can add those in relatively simple. We just have to find a community developer who knows how to build those within Fantasy Grounds, export them out, whatever. If you know how to do that and you're the publisher, that's great too. And in fact, you would make a higher percentage on all sales for those too. So typically we try to set up people with a percentage or we call it a royalty as a publisher, and then we also have a commission that we pay people to do the development. So if you are bringing a fully developed product to us, then you get a higher cut essentially. And I don't know if it's probably not appropriate to say this, on the open stream. I mean, I typically do that, on email, just because, competitive information. But I think we're pretty generous with the percentages that we give to people, and our main interest is not to make a lot of money from that sort of stuff. It's to kind of help support a lot of these small up and coming companies, because and that helps bring more content into our storefront as well.
Very good. I know that there's quite a few of us that have been we have a lot of content between many of our streamers that definitely, a lot of them have put a lot of time and effort and labors of love, that they've all wanted to sell stuff and they didn't know where to start in order to do it. And so this is great information for us. Thank you very much.
So one of the things I will say too is that if it's anything related to Dungeons and Dragons, especially with 5th edition, the DMs Guild is our outlet for that. So we actually don't put out any fan made or we do some like indie publishers, like we've done stuff with like Cobalt Press and Sasquatch Games and Adventure Week, that sort of stuff. But if you're not a company, if you're an individual that's producing content for like 5th edition, you can go directly to DMs Guild. DMs Guild will give you 50% of anything that you sell there. And then you can market as, typically they want you to have a PDF version and a Fantasy Grounds version, and you can market in such a way to where some small percentage will go back to us and to Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast has agreed to divide that with us, basically. So that's public knowledge. It's 50% goes back to the author, 30% I think goes back to the One Bookshelf guys, Drive Through RPG, RPG Now, those folks, and then it's 10% to Wizards and 10% to us. And you don't have to even go through an approval process or anything. You just basically sign up. Well, I won't say that exactly. I think there's some sort of an approval process, but you set up your account, you upload all your own files and that sort of stuff, and then people can go through and rate it, and you can set your own pricing and all that kind of stuff. So that's a great outlet for people who are interested in doing Dungeons and Dragons stuff. That's the only official way to do that. And you can, link back to their, you can even use their names and information too.
Oh, awesome. Very good.
Okay, enough with the technobabbly questions. Now we're going to get to the goofy ones. What is the biggest, baddest beastie you have ever taken down in an RPG game?
I have to think back. I've been gaming for, I'm 40 years old now. It's probably been about 30 years or so that I've been gaming. And what's the biggest creature? A lot of times I'm the dungeon master. So I think the majority of my career, I've probably been the dungeon master more than anything else. I would say, I know we fought pit fiends. We've done a couple pit fiends before. We've done like high-level vampires and liches. I don't think I've ever actually fought a beholder, which is kind of interesting. I never fought a beholder. I've never done the Tarrasque. I guess games where I was the player, most of those have kind of capped out. I think the highest level I've ever been is maybe 14, 14th level, and that's in like a D&D game.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe a high-powered lich might be the highest that I've ever defeated, I suppose.
I don't know, SusieQ. It sounds like Mr. Davison here. He needs to come visit me on a Wednesday evening when we're having a dungeon race.
Mr. Quinn, I think he does need to come visit us on a Wednesday evening when we're having a dungeon race.
Nice.
I know. Wasn't that just the smoothest little plug ever?
No, that's cool. I used to play, I played a lot of miniature games and stuff as well. And I always liked that. It's just, and that's partly why I think I became a dungeon master, is because a lot of the dungeon masters that I'd gained with, over the decades didn't really stick with it long enough. Like they would have a really cool idea in the beginning. They'd be super excited about it. And a lot of them would be homebrew campaigns or whatever. And then it would just peter out. They're like, yeah, I can't think of anything cool to do. So they would the game would just kind of end.
Oh, you said the bad word. How can you say the bad word? Do you not watch our show?
I have not. What's the bad word?
Homebrew. Oh my goodness, you said it.
Is that a bad word? Why is that a bad word? I'm not.
If you look at my chat right now, they're like triggered.
Nice.
I've been a professional designer since 2001, game designer since 2001, and I've worked with Wizards, I've worked with Goodman Games, I've worked with Sword and Sorcery. I've worked with many publishers, and with 5th edition, if you go on to things like the D&D 5e homebrew wiki or some such thing like that, you got thieves at level 1 who are able to throw a 15 die fireball. So when we talk about homebrew, that's what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. No,
yeah.
For me, homebrew is not a mechanic change to the game system. For me, homebrew has always been your own stories. So for instance, if you're gonna grab and run Storm King's Thunder, that's fine. And in fact, a lot of times that's what I'll do, because I'll get lazy sometimes, especially now that I don't have time. So I'll take something like Storm King's Thunder, but then I'll add my own little twist to it, or I'll replace some sections of it with something else, just so that I feel like, where I have time to make it my own, I will. But then when I don't have time to make it my own, I'm content to just kind of run as the story is presented. And it's not anything to do with whether or not I think I can do a better. It's not like you're thinking that you could do a better job than I think the professionals who got paid to write the actual content.
Right.
Because quite honestly, they are professional. But one of the things I think you can do as a dungeon master that I like about homebrew is that you can customize and tailor things for your players that you have in there. And so I I know that, over the years, and I've had campaigns that have run for years and years, at different times. And I always felt like, like reading in the Dungeon Master's Guide and about this is the sort of stuff you should look for when you're running your game. And, a lot of that stuff that you see in person, like, are your players leaning forward in their chair? Or are they sitting back and resigned? I see sometimes people say that they don't like to run internet games because their players are off surfing YouTube and stuff. And I'm like, that means you're not running the right game, or you haven't presented it or prepared it in such a way, I don't think, to where you've captured and engaged your audience personally. So I think doing those little things and knowing, how you can kind of like push and pull the players in ways to where they find it engaging and challenging. To me, that's what I think about when I think of homebrew. It's not, oh, I'm going to have the thief flinging fireballs or doing this or that or whatever. I mean, I don't mind some of that. Like if you don't like a certain rule or mechanic, change the things up every once in a while. Sure. As long as it's consistent, your players enjoy it, but it's not to break the system, I guess. I don't know.
Yep. Nope. You actually have described what we call custom forever and a day, and has everybody. Okay, this is for my chat more than it is for you or for Susie. Have you guys noticed that? Okay, we've had two professional, quote unquote, professional gamers come on here now as guests. One for December, which was Rabaducci, and then one for January, being Doug, and they've both said the same thing that I've been trying to say to everybody for months, is if you don't find something that works for your players, if you're not engaging them with your story, if you're not having fun at the table, then change it so people are having fun. This is the whole point of gaming, is to have fun.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and I will say that every once in a while, and this might get back into your trigger category here. So every once in a while, I'm going to be honest, I'll steal stuff from one game system and use it in another game system. Just because
Totally. I still use skill challenges from 4th edition. I use those in 5th. I use the chase mechanics out of Pathfinder in 5th edition. I mean, I've actually, matter of fact, this last week we actually had a board game, the Royal Board Game of re-skinned and everything to be a special artifact encounter where people were actually playing a board game in order to advance the story. So, definitely steal stuff from other games, other systems, whatever works.
Okay, now following on those lines, one of our viewers wants to know, is it legal to take an old TSR adventure and make it into a module, make the maps and handouts and such, and if all goes well, sell it on DM Guild? I'm going to answer that right now. That is a big old no.
Yeah, I think it's in their guidelines. If you want to go to DM's Guild FAQ, just do a Google search for that. I don't know what the link is right offhand, but they actually have that specific example, I think, listed in their guidelines. And they say, no, don't do this. They're like, but it is very possible for you to basically write your own story that fits into an area. So if you wanted to keep on the Borderlands or something like that and write your own version of it, I think that would be allowed. But again, you'd have to go back to them. If you have any questions, ask the DM skill people. I don't run or manage that stuff at all. I just kind of direct people that way because it's not a Fantasy Grounds question so much as it is a D&D question.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you from experience, everybody, that the only things you're allowed to put up on DM's Guild are system neutral, setting neutral D&D things that use proprietary information. Proprietary information is anything that is not in the SRD. And the second thing that you can put up is anything based in the Forgotten Realms, which is also proprietary information owned by Wizards of the Coast. You cannot make Greyhawk or Athos or Mystara or any of the rest of those worlds. You do not have any right to be able to do that or sell it on DM's Guild. So if you try to make those kinds of things, they will shut that down. They will say, sorry, nope, you can't sell that here. So until they open those things, which Wizards of the Coast says they are going to eventually do, Until then, you can't, take your favorite Warforged, cleric and make an adventure around him because that's Eberron, and that's not available yet.
But I do still want to do Spelljammer, and eventually, I hope that I'm gonna win an arm wrestling contest with Nathan Stewart at Wizards or something, and he'll let me do it.
Oh,
Dude, I'll help you win that arm wrestling contest. I'll be right there rooting in your corner.
so is that your favorite quote unquote canon setting? Is Spelljammer?
I just had a lot of fun with it, but again, I probably bastardized my version of it pretty badly. I started with, I guess I'll call it a custom world, and then brought it into Spelljammer by having Elithids having found a planet, off the beaten path, and coming down and wreaking havoc before the players realize that, these Elithids are not from this planet, and then they followed them out, and then they ended up in the realm space and everything else. But initially, they started off kind of off the beaten path. So I really liked it a lot. I like it as a dungeon master. It allows you to freely mix kind of canon settings with non-canon stuff, so you could actually hop around, much like you could with probably Planescape as well. How you could hop from one plane to another. And so to me, that's like the ultimate freedom and creativity, is to be able to have people play in in an environment where the rules are already written, and then hop out of that environment and go back into a different world that's like, Quantum Leap or Star Trek, landing in a new planet or whatever you want. And you could, make new rules and new cultural rules and everything else. And then you're not confined to that. So you don't have to feel like you have to stay in that world forever. They just hop back on the ship and you give them a compelling reason to leave and go someplace else.
Very cool. Very cool. I've always liked the Spelljammer. I've always liked Planescape. Those are some of my favorite quote unquote gateway drugs to some of the other worlds that TSR and Wizards of the Coast created. So those were always a lot of fun for me.
I will reiterate it again. I am not big into the psionics in D&D. You keep your psionics out of my D&D and we're good. But if I'm going to play Spelljammer and Planescape and stuff like that, I will admit, and this is my dirty little secret, y'all, I do want to have a little bit of psionics in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I didn't like about Spelljammer, I think was kind of deadened out a little bit, was how they, to fly the ship, it drained your spellcasting ability. So like that would be an area where I would modify the rules, because I hated to have my spellcasters like, oh, I'm sorry, I flew the ship, so I'm dead now. I can't do it. I mean, if we get boarded or if we get into combat or we land, I can't use spells for another 24 hours. So, that sort of stuff I would take away. But yeah, I mean, I love the idea of still using some of your magical energy or psionic energy to power stuff. And to me, the favorite was like the life jammer. The fact that you could, the Elliptis could capture people and throw them in this tube that drain their life to power their ships. That's badass. That's exactly what Magic should be set up to do.
Oh, exactly. Now, this kind of goes along the same lines, and it's a Fantasy Grounds question. Is there a way to have spellcasters for 5th edition in Fantasy Grounds utilize spell points instead of the prepared spell slots?
Yeah, I think the question just came up not too long ago, and I haven't actually done. Let me actually hop out while we're here. I've been working on some of the Pathfinder stuff. Let me switch back over to my D&D stuff, and I'm pretty sure that there's a way built in already that you can do that. Let me double check.
Okay, and while you're looking that up, I just want to remind everybody in chat right now, you have roughly about 5 more minutes on the Harley Quinn minifig giveaway. Tickets are only 50 experience points each. You can buy a ticket by using !ticket and a number. You can purchase up to, I do believe it is 10 tickets. So you only have 5 minutes remaining, and then I'm going to close that down and we will pull us a winner. So far, we've got 75 tickets purchased. Wow. And yes, I will mail it anywhere in the world. So if you're out of country, I will mail it to you.
Aw, poor Genghis.
He's been spending all of his experience points on helping people in in the games.
Well, not just that, he gambled earlier and he lost all of his experience points, so he can't buy tickets.
Oh.
Come on. I think we should give him at least one for free. Yes, Dungeon. Buy Max. See if you can win it for your girl child. Okay, the maximum amount of tickets that you can buy is, I believe, 10. So what you're going to do is you're going to do exclamation point ticket space the number 10. And that's how you buy Max tickets. Come on, guys. I'm looking at this minifig right now, and I'm kind of wanting to lick it so that it can't be given away. I kind of want this minifig, guys. Buy these tickets, because otherwise I'm going to lick this, and it's going to be mine.
Matter of fact, both Susie and I will both sign it with love from SusieQ and Geo on it.
Bed doesn't want me to lick it? Why not?
All right, so Doug, do you have an answer?
All right, so I'm looking through here, and I swear I know that I just had an email about this not too long ago. John said, "Oh yeah, you can do that," and now I'm looking in the interface. I'm not seeing it yet. So all I know is that you can. I think what I suggested, and I think he corrected me and said, "No, you can do it this other way." But I'll tell you the way that I originally thought you could do it is you could use your action tab, and you can add a special.
We lost him there for a second.
It's because I'm letting go of the control key, evidently. Because I'm trying to type, and I'm like, control does different things in Fantasy Grounds. I can't hold down control and talk and do that at the same time. Damn it!
A lot of our players have the same problem. I use control on mine, and I just, leave my mic open while I'm doing stuff in control.
Okay, so let's see. There's Pack Magic. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. But I would say post something to the forums, because I'm pretty sure that there's a way to do that. John was telling me that there's a way to do that. But looking at it right now, it's not super obvious to me on the character sheet. And I'd probably tell you something, and then I'd still be wrong. I just can't find that email.
Okay, not a problem. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do have questions that were not answered by Mr. Davison this evening, then you can always go over to the Fantasy Grounds forums at fantasygrounds.com and ask as many questions as you want to over there. They are the most friendly and helpful people I have ever seen, whether it is one of the mods who does it or one of the other very, very active people who works over there. Well, not works, but who visits the site. They have a great store of knowledge. All right, just letting everybody know that I am closing up shop as far as the minifig goes. You have 10 seconds. Let's see who wins this. All right, and here we go. I'm drawing a winner right now. And our winner is Hawkeye. Hawkeye, you have won. So please be sure to submit your info over at my giveaway. And we will make sure to send that out to you. So Hawkeye is my winner. Congratulations. No, Schmo, it's not rigged. Oh, I do have one more Fantasy Grounds questions before we decide to start closing it down for the evening.
Shoot.
People have seen that there seems to be a lot of critical successes and failures in Fantasy Grounds. Is this intentional, or is it just the luck of the draw?
I think that it is. It's basically something. If you go back, one thing you can very easily do to confirm or deny it, and I'm gonna suggest it's gonna deny it if you go back and do this, is your chat log is saved with the DM. I think people just have a tendency to remember the strings when things were, higher, lower, whatever. And Fantasy Grounds makes rolling the dice a lot faster and quicker. So I think it sometimes has that impression. I know it doesn't happen in my games. I feel like I never roll 20s. So
I'm always on the low end too. So
yeah,
I totally understand
that. Go
that.
back and look at the chat log. It records every single roll. And go back through and just tally them up. In fact, one of the things I was hoping to do one day in the future is actually do a chat log scrubber that takes and does all those, and then would run some analysis and build little stat sheets for all the party members and say, who in your party rolls the most 20s, who rolls the most ones, all that sort of stuff. Give you that statistical analysis. I thought it would be really cool to see from your campaign, but it's all in the chat log. It's all there. You could do that all kind of manually. Just go back and count up just even the last session and see how many you really had and whether it, seems like it's an outlier or not.
Very good. Very good. Now, sir, I'm going to turn this over to you for a moment. Do you have anything special you would like to announce that's coming up for Fantasy Grounds or SmiteWorks or your personal life or anything you'd like to share with all of us?
I'll just say that right now I'm trying to figure out if you're going to be at Gen Con for this year and you think you might want to attend one of our seminars. We're not going to have a booth this year, so we're going to do seminars instead. And the reason why we kind of made that change is because we felt like you get the booth, and we've expanded it to the 20-foot booth, and we had a couple different stands set up, but we tend to constantly repeat the same walkthrough every single time, so we're not entirely sure that that's the most effective way to present the product to people. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to get seminar rooms and hit 80 people at a time or so. That way, and if it goes well, then we'll expand and get a bigger room, next year and that sort of stuff. So if you're at all interested, or if you know people who are interested and who are going to be there, if you go to our forums under City Hall, I've got kind of a real informal sort of a poll set up there. Let us know which events you're interested in going to, and if there are other events that you said, hey, I'd really like you guys to have this kind of an event, then by all means, please pop over and take a look at that too. And yeah, that'll help us kind of in the future, and we're trying something new, and maybe even able to do that at other conventions. If it works well at Gen Con, we might be able to expand and hit other parts of the country better that way.
Very good, very good. My chat is all of them are inviting you to come and do one of our dungeon races on Wednesday night, and they're trying to prod you to come and join us.
Nice. What's the all right? So fill me in on the dungeon rates. What do you guys do for those?
Okay, it's called the Delver Society. It's kind of a combination of Adventurers League and Pathfinder Society, except they are pre-made games with pre-made characters of varying levels. You won't know until you get on the table. I open the table, for example, we play at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Wednesday nights, and usually it has about 6 players, and when I open the table at 7:30 for the players to jump on, first come, first serve for the player characters. So you may get something you like, you may get something you've never played before. You have no idea what level you are until you have gotten on a table and you went, hey, look, this is my character. And only thing you know when you jump on is its race and its class. That's all you'll know when you come on, because the name of it is, for example, Dwarf Paladin or Dragonborn such and such. So, and then I set a time limit and a basic plot. For example, the last one we had was 2 children were kidnapped by some evil wizard who was trying to do a blood rite, and you had 2 hours to complete it to save the children before the blood rite was completed. at which point they failed their mission. So there's a timer set up, and you have that amount of time to go through the dungeon and to basically just have fun. Just sit down, be goofy, be a little silly, and race the timer.
That's great. That's great. That's actually, it's funny because that's very similar to, we just put out, I don't know if you've noticed it, the D&D Lair Assault. And so that was actually a 4th edition D&D product. And we convinced Wizards of the Coast to let us, we're always asking, hey, what else can we do, for you guys? And so they said, well, what about, converting these over for 5th edition? And so the basic premise is essentially that, very similar to that. So the very first one that's out there is where you basically have like 20 in-game turns to make it across a dungeon, and the dungeon changes partway through, which is kind of cool, kind of like a cool little twist, and stop this ritual from unleashing a fiery primordial who is poised to destroy the city of Neverwinter. So yeah, it seems very similar to that. And then the second one is like called Talon of Umberlee, and it's all about trying to stop Umberlee's followers. So it's, it sounds almost exactly like that same sort of mentality, except for the fact that, yeah, it's for, the only real change is that, you're having the nice pre-gens in there where you can just kind of pick up and run. But to be honest, that's almost how I would plan on running the Lair Assaults too, is having pre-gens ready and then just let people grab them and go.
Oh yeah, definitely. But you're a part of my Discord server now. So you'll see the announcements go out on Monday mornings, looking for adventurers to be in that for that Wednesday, and I give it about 24 hours, and I take the first 6 people who pop up on my list, and I say, okay, guess what? You 6 are the ones who are going to be coming and playing with us. So every single week, it's a different group with different levels and different characters, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I would love to. I guess the only challenge I have is I've got little kids here, and my daughter is typically up till about 8:30, so that sometimes puts a crimp in it until after that time period for me. But maybe I might be able to fit in one time, surprise you guys, and jump in. And it sounds like a fun time for sure.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, unless Doug, you have anything else you'd like to add for this evening, I think we're going to be done for tonight.
Thanks to everybody on the stream, and thanks for all the questions. And definitely don't stop here. Hop over and ask away, on our forums, and you'll probably have someone much better and more knowledgeable about Fantasy Grounds than me even answer the question. Some of our end users are like crazy, and yeah, they typically are like ninjas on the forums.